Welcome to Chapter 2, Boomer Builds a Business. I don't know if I'm remembering correctly, but and it's kind of like an urban legend, but I always heard that Irma Bombeck, and I know this audience will remember that name, had two big dogs, and they were always getting on her furniture. And she named them Get Off the Couch and You Too. I always thought that was hilarious. So, hey, that's what I'm saying to you guys. Get off the couch and you too. Let's start businesses. Let's get up. Let's do something productive. Let's do something dynamic and interesting in the later phase of our chapters of our lives. So that's what Boomer Builds a Business is all about. It's definitely going to be encouragement for me, and hopefully it can encourage and incite some energy and plenty of other people that want to listen and join in on this journey. Now, having said that, I want to do a little housekeeping from my very first video. I know I touched on some strengths of young people starting businesses, but in hindsight, I remembered I never really brought up the strengths of older people, and boy, there are plenty. Number one probably being that in general, financial stability, that definitely helps. And you know, you can throw some money, some capital, and maybe you already retired, or maybe semi-retired, so you've got some extra time on your hands too. So those are definitely benefits. And then probably maybe even the strongest is network. At this point, you've usually got a wide swath or group of friends that are connected, and you know, it just helps to get things done. If nothing else, you know, customers too. And so those are two great strengths. And then, of course, wisdom. Simply, hey, we've been on this planet a long time, and you learn a lot of things. You learn a lot of pitfalls, do's and don'ts. So definitely some strengths to starting a business as an older person. So do like Irma Bombeck. Get up off the couch and get after it. So now, again, I want to, you know, I did talk about there's a lot of strengths or a lot of productivity tools being introduced into the tech society. And I'm going to use as much of those as I can, but I'm also going to try to keep this very real. I think you sense that already just from my platforms, filming pretty much with no editing. I will, somewhere down the road, I'll probably edit just to make it more harmonious. But as of now, I'm going to do very, very little editing, and I'll definitely never use an avatar. Now, I can see somewhere somebody's business that would probably apply, absolutely. But those things are all available. I would say, you know, what I'm definitely going to use is AI. I mean, I pretty much use it daily already. I think maybe many of you already are. The young people are, and you know, there's almost going to be no Google searches anymore. It's going to be a search using ChatGPT, Grok, Perplexity, Claude. Those are just some of the bigger, they call them LLMs. Now, I'm assuming you guys have a basic understanding of some of this, but if you don't, get an understanding of AI and LLM. If you get comfortable, and there's really nothing to it. You get on your laptop, you can do a Google search to get them. That's ironic, but you know, but Google's got their own. So they've got Gemini. And so all these big tech companies, or most of them, Meta, Google, Apple really doesn't have one, a decent one. They've got something they call Apple Intelligence, but I'm not really even too familiar with it, and I hear it's not that great. So they have Siri, but this is way beyond those technologies. So familiarize yourself with AI first and foremost, in my opinion, because you can use AI to learn all these other things. It will give you, it'll surface so many wonderful answers for you. And using AI, there's something they call prompt engineering. And so familiarize yourself with that term too. Now you may already know all this, so I'm gonna treat this vlog as if I'm talking to people all up and down the spectrum. So first and foremost, learn AI. Do a Google search, find the best ones. ChatGPT was the one that really got the fire going, and now everybody else is right there with them. One tries to get ahead of the other. It's a horse race. Super powerful tool, and I think it's going along an exponential curve. And as scientists say, that the human brain cannot keep up with exponentials. So you think you've kind of wrapped your head around, what an AI can do now, and you can in this point in time, but what you really can't keep up with is the exponential changes. So you go to bed one day and you wake up and it's almost different. And I'm anticipating ChatGPT 5, and what I've kind of heard is it could actually come in July, and I saw out of the CEO's mouth, Sam Altman, that it should come this summer. So, tied in with some other things I've heard, maybe in July. So, and what I'm expecting, just from some of the reading between the lines, is when they come up with ChatGPT 5, it's going to blow our minds, and the existing ones already kind of have. So ChatGPT 5 is going to be one of those quantum leaps. Now I'm bringing all this up because, again, starting a business, it can be intimidating, can sound like overwhelming, but these tools are going to make it so much easier. And I really think it's going to play to a lot of older people's strengths: organization, again, networking, work ethic. All these things can play into an older person's strengths. You might not have the energy, and you might have the mental capabilities, gymnastic capabilities of a young person, but you don't really have to anymore with these AIs. They're just so powerful, and they're getting more powerful. That's the other thing. Again, like I said just a minute ago, we can't even wrap our heads around exponential changes, and that's how fast they're changing. So it's exciting times. You may think you may jump into something and you may feel underwater, overwhelmed. Just remember the life raft's coming with AI. So start something, hang in there, plod along if you have to, build slowly, build fast, however, whatever pace fits you, but don't give up right away for sure, because these AI tools are going to come to your rescue, I think. So what else is AI going to do? We're going to be able to automate so many things. Right now, I'm not doing a lot as far as producing this content. Of course, I just started, but eventually I can conceive where it'll be so simple. I make a video, I pretty much push a button. It probably ends up editing, fixing thumbnails, checking all the right boxes for YouTube, all these different things that right now you kind of have to know about. And and the thing is, to really get it going, you're just going to have to talk into your speaker and have a chat with your chat GPT. That's how simple this is going to be. It's going to give you, now I have used this. I've queried it on how to do these videos and what equipment to use. And, I'm keeping it pretty simple. I'm using my iPhone for right now. I'm probably going to use my laptop and sit at my desk and do some of these episodes. But it's just really going to be a dynamic tool. I think it was Sam Altman again that said that it's just an incredible time to start something, because he's inside. He has inside knowledge of where they are on their roadmap, and I think he has said some pretty extreme things. So having said that, I think he's actually trying to temper it down so he can over-deliver, under-promise and over-deliver. So buckle up. I think we're going to be shocked at what all this can do. If you start now, you're going to be way ahead of anybody else that comes along. Your competition. Now again, I hope everybody jumps out there and does something. I think it's just better for us, better for humanity, and whatever it is. You might want to start a nonprofit. You might want to, so there's just all kinds of angles you can go, but get up and do something, because these are incredible times. So if you do decide to build something, consider doing what I'm doing. I'm building it on one hand, and I'm documenting it on the other. What I'm already finding is it motivates me. It's the person or the thing behind me going, you got to do this, because now this will be my second builds a business, and I have not done my first StretchStride video. So I'm under the gun. I've got to get the actual business one going. And so it's just a natural manager or some, person over you going, you've got to get going and get it started. And then on top of that, it just helps you. I think it's going to keep me clear-headed. It'll clarify things in my head on what steps I need to do, what steps I'm doing right, what steps I'm doing wrong. So consider doing that. And hey, if you really do start something, reach out. Maybe we can just share this channel. I mean, it's generic. It's not named after me. There's plenty of us boomers out there, so we could maybe just use this channel to talk about other people's businesses too. That could be way down the road. All right, so back to business at hand. Well, I just got to show you this lake where I'm walking. It's just so beautiful. So serene, and this is just down from my house. So like I said, I guess I should keep a running gauge, running number on the success of StretchStride. And of course, this is so soon. StretchStride is still a big goose egg, zero revenues, but I haven't even done my first video. As I mentioned in the past, I did develop a very simple product. In the startup world, they term it MVP, minimum viable product. And I came up with mine. It's not good, but that's not the point. It's just something that can actually demonstrate whatever it is you've got. And then, of course, you iterate, you improve on that. The best ways of doing my routine, I believe, are going to use technology, and that's really beyond my scope. My MVP was simply a vinyl mat that had a pattern that people would do the routine to, and it's something I could come up with. And the only reason I came up with that, again, I started that whole journey down that path, not even intending to make money. But I trained 4 kids for a coach, a senior high school, local senior high school, and the original intent was he wanted to buy or have a pretty wealthy supporter buy a couple of the Vertimax machines, and that was going to be, I think at the time, $6,000 or $8,000 investment. And this supporter happened to be a friend of mine, and I was telling him about my routine, and he asked me to go talk to this coach. So I did. I met with the coach. I said, what are you hoping to get out of the Vertimax? A couple inches. And he's like, oh yeah, that'd be great. And so I said, well, let me just try this. So we met on a Saturday, beautiful spring Saturday, He rounded up 4 nice young men. They came down, we measured their vertical, their best jumps, we taped them on the wall, and then I trained them. They didn't really follow the protocol because they were young, and I was asking them to really stay and do something longer than they want to do. And the main thing, though, is I did not have a good way of doing this thing. Again, you can do it on your own, but mentally, you just like so many things, you can do things one way, and then if you get the right tool, it sure makes it easier, it makes it better, makes it more pleasurable. So there is a business here. I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at. So I trained these kids my old way of just taping marks on a gym floor and having them go back and forth, and it was not ideal. They didn't follow the protocol pretty much at all, but they did enough, and I was hoping. So that's on a Saturday. I always like to wait 48 hours. And so Monday we go down and we test them, and sure enough, the first 3 guys are getting 2 inches over pretty much 2 inches over their marks. And the 4th guy, who had the best vertical overall, the biggest guy, big left-handed kid, he was just getting back to his mark. Now, the way we were implementing this was not great. We just taped up against this concrete block wall, and he just couldn't get comfortable jumping up against that wall. I mean, at that moment, I didn't know that's what it was, because I thought, well, that would have been my first failure. I was probably on my 7th or 8th test cases of me proving to myself I did not have the scientific experiment of why this works. So this kid named Diedrich, he's out there, they're warming up for practice. Coach is sitting there with his arms crossed, and I thought, oh my gosh, I got my first failure. And then all of a sudden he goes, dang, Diedrich's never dunked 2 hands before. And I went, oh my gosh. And I had seen this kid dunking, he was having a blast, just like I remembered 30 something years before how it impacted me. It's just fun. And he was jumping up and dunking with 2 hands, and I thought it was the young man that he had told me had the best vertical. And that kid was actually pretty short, so he had an incredible vertical. And I just thought it was that kid jumping up there and dunking like that. I just wasn't, he was down on the other side of the end of the court, and we were where the lobby walks, opens up to the floor, and he goes, Diedrich's never dunked 2 hands before. And I went, oh my gosh. So I still haven't failed. Diedrich gained probably more than the 2 inches, because to all of a sudden be able to comfortably dunk 2 hands, you probably gained more than 2 inches. But 2 inches could maybe do it. So, because he could already dunk, he had a good vertical. He just couldn't dunk easily with 2 hands. And that's kind of funny, because that's really what happened to me. I could run and jump and dunk one-handed, but I couldn't just plant my feet and jump up and dunk two-handed back in the day. And when I discovered this, and then the day I came in, that's exactly how I felt. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm dunking and playing like I've never played before. So what I've got is really, really powerful. And I want to go into a little more of that, because I don't want you guys to all think I'm insane when I say my plan is to take this from zero revenue, zero value basically, to 1 billion in 1 year. That may just sound, oh, this guy's crazy, insane, blah, blah. Of course, hey, if you shoot for the stars and you land on the moon, you still accomplish something. But I really, really know this can be a $1 billion business. When it comes to valuing businesses, these venture capitalists, there's probably 3 metrics that they really, really like to look at. One is, what's your value proposition? And, value proposition is primarily why is anybody going to buy your product or service? People are savvy. I mean, we might call them the dumb consumers, but boy, in the end, Sam Walton, I'm down here in Walmart country, and Sam Walton had it right. The consumer is always right. So if they're buying this gadget over that gadget, and you think one should be more valuable than the other, don't second guess the consumer. Collectively, they get it right, and your little study group can have it totally wrong. So these venture capitalists like to find out what is the value proposition. Well, let me give you a good example of my value proposition and why I say $1 billion is absolutely doable. I always like using the use case or the example Okay, who's the fastest sprinter? Who's the fastest person, human being in the world? He's retired now. I think we all know who that is. Usain Bolt. Okay, so 2 values that Usain gets out of being the fastest runner. One is we know his name. Second is he's actually got a net worth estimated about $100 million. So 2 big values of when you excel at whatever sport, whatever competition you're involved in. And those are both huge. You know, a lot of people love fame, maybe even over money, but they a lot of times they go hand in hand. So guess who the second fastest runner is? See, I'd say 99.9% or most people won't even know who the second fastest sprinter is. Now, I happen to know because he hails from the University of Arkansas. Now, I think there has been, another Jamaican has tied him, the guy they call the Bull. And honestly, I haven't done a search on this in the last couple of years. There could have been somebody else that slipped in now too, is the second fastest. But at the time, I've been working on this for 10 years. For many years there, I could always tell this story correctly. And so the second fastest sprinter was Tyson Gay. And Tyson Gay's net worth, first of all, you don't even know his name. Secondly, his net worth, estimated net worth, is $5 million. So there's my value proposition. Because the time of their collective 100-meter sprints, the time difference is pretty much the snap of your fingers. And I know, I've got science that says I can increase that speed by that much. And you might say, well, Rob, those are elite athletes. Well, ironically, whenever I have tested people, and even in the scientific experiment, it actually has impacted the better athletes more. And I think primarily, not because somebody that's less athletic, not because they haven't gotten the benefit. It's because after you do this, now listen, I train you one day and boom, you're superhuman. In about I like weight, about 48 hours. But I put you through the paces. It's a super, super low impact thing. But I'm getting you stretched out, and you're going to feel it. Well, I think the reason the people that are not as athletic have not demonstrated the benefits, I think they had them, is they weren't used to suffering something called DOMS, D-O-M-S, or delayed onset muscular soreness. Whereas the athletes, the people that are just used to working out and playing and getting kind of sore because they played so long and played so hard, and then the next day they just go right at it again. The soreness doesn't affect them mentally. And so what I have found is when I train, and even in the scientific study, the best results were coming from those that had, in the scientific study, they measured VO2 max. I wasn't doing that. I was just training athletes because I knew, for the most part, somebody that's not an athlete didn't really care about doing this routine. But in the study, they actually measured a thing called VO2 max, which basically, to simplify it, it's how your body processes oxygen. And so, the better shape you're in, you don't run out of breath like me on this little walk. So there's my value proposition. Number 1 guy, 100 million, you know his name. Number 2 guy, 5 million, you don't even know his name. Now, do I capture 95 million? No, I don't capture that 95 million, but is that a motivation for a lot of athletes to do this? Absolutely. So, and there could be cases where I could capture some of that. I could start a clinic of training specialists, and there's all kinds of ways we could capture more of that value. But again, it's a huge value proposition. Number 2 thing they like is a big potential market. So, there's a lot of athletes in the world. Probably a huge addressable market. Sorry, I like to use their technical terms. So probably the biggest market really in this country for sure is runners. We've got 30 million runners and like 16 million serious active runners. That's why Nike, probably makes most of their money with shoes. I mean, all the other things are kind of incidental. Basketball shoes, they can't really sell near as many basketball shoes as running shoes. And then of course, just kicking around shoes. Now that's why they do all the branding and marketing that they do, make it where everybody wants to wear a pair of Nikes, whether you're an athlete or not. So huge addressable market. There's millions. And I think somewhere down the road, maybe even this year, hopefully that certainly helped me get to $1 billion. I can prove up that there is some therapeutic benefits. I've got some anecdotal evidence, mainly of my own, when I did the routine again later in life and I had some sciatica in my right hip. Did it for a long time training a kid, got sore as heck. But then sure enough, in a day or two, the effects I was feeling, because I wasn't playing basketball anymore, the effects I felt were my sciatica went away. And I'm a side sleeper, and that was miserable. It was on my right side, so I could only pretty much lay on my left side. And you know how it is if you're a side sleeper, you like to switch from one side to the other. And I'd switch to my right side and I could only lay there for a few seconds, and then I'd feel that just a weird gnawing pain. Well, that went away for several years. I'm getting some hip issues now at 63, but that's a different story. So I think there's absolutely a therapeutic benefit too. So that just increases the addressable market even more. And then the third thing they like is what they call a wide moat. And you can even hear Warren Buffett mention things like that when he's buying into businesses. Now, what's a wide moat? Well, that means limited competition, that you get into something and it's not a commodity easily for other people to jump in. There's got to be some things constricting a lot of competition. Maybe just it takes so much capital. I think Warren Buffett uses that one. Or, in the case of Coke, you've just got such brand recognition and you've got the special formula. I mean, to this day, I don't know. I don't want to piss off Pepsi drinkers, but I just prefer a Coke. If I'm going to drink one, I rarely drink sugared anyway. I do drink a few diets, which I know that's not good either, but I like a Coke over a Pepsi. Now, I know there's the opposite, but so they had that brand recognition, kind of a first mover advantage. And then they had that secret formula. So he considers that a wide moat. Now, what I have in a wide moat in my business, and again, I'm going into all of this on this channel just because I don't want you guys to think this guy's insane, $1 billion. I'm giving you some details that I didn't give in the first video, how I really honestly, truly believe it could be $1 billion business. So I have 2 full utility patents. You can't patent my exercise. It's human movement, but you can patent any other ways that you could think of coming up with it if they're novel and they're unique. And I believe every one of mine is. I have 2 full utility patents that protect every method of enhancing, doing and aiding in doing this routine, such as even up to augmented reality glasses, which interesting is all of a sudden a big push again. I thought they were going to have it sooner than they have when Google had Google Glass back in the day. But ever since Meta has bought, they bought Oculus Rift originally. That was virtual reality, but they are making a big push into augmented reality. And Sam Altman, CEO of ChatGPT, he just bought out Johnny Ive's company. And Johnny Ive, if you don't know, was the main designer for Apple for a long time. He left, started his own company, and Meta AI just paid, I think it was $6 billion to acquire that company. And they're hinting about some kind of form factor that it's got to be a wearable device, obviously, because they want to capture our lives in real time, to help feed their algorithm machine, but then in turn to be able to spit back better solutions to us too. Could be a lot of things about health. They could notice things. Who knows? I don't even really want to go down that path of guessing, because again, this is an exponential game, and I just think our brains just can't even wrap ourselves around how fast and how wild things are going to change. So those devices are coming, and that I've got that patented. As far as applying it to some programs to encourage, to help, to aid in doing my routine. So I've got augmented reality. I've got ways of configuring treadmills to help do it. I've got the pattern of my mat, which I think is actually a great way to do it. It's just the problem was my mat is 50 feet long, and I'm wanting these kids to go back and forth for a long time on a mat, and that's really asking too much. So, but if you could build a circuit using this pattern that I developed, and make it long enough where people didn't mind doing it, because the more you want to benefit, the longer you need to do it in that first session. Now, I'm not saying you train a long time every day. No way. I mean, nobody's going to do that. I know that. You might only train extensively like that for the first time, maybe just to demonstrate what it's going to do for you. But then after that, you might do it again. You might every once in a while really just kick it in gear, because you just want to perform at your absolute best. And maybe it's because you've got a competition coming up. Maybe maybe you've hit the lottery and you were a heck of a football player, and you've got the NFL Combine coming up. My routine impacts about 7 out of 10 of the main tests of the NFL Combine. Again, getting back to value proposition, if I can move you up a few spots, or maybe even up one level of the draft, how valuable is that? That's a lot of money that you're going to capture. So yeah, I've got this wide moat. So I've got 3 things that in my mind are exactly, well, it's what venture capitalists want. In my mind, I hit them all. Absolute huge value proposition, huge addressable market, and a pretty wide moat with my full utility patents. So, okay, so don't want you to think I'm crazy. I want you to have hope, have hope and enjoy this ride. I'm going to be super transparent. I mean, the first time I sell anything, it'll probably be my ebook. It won't be a lot of revenue, but this thing can curve. It can go exponential, because one of the reasons I'm doing these 2 platforms is all I need is one person, like a LeBron James, to see the benefits, do it, talk about it, and boom, it's a huge business. And actually, I did pitch it to the Miami Heat when LeBron was still playing there. They were back-to-back champs. I got down there in the summer. I got hooked up with Coach Bill Ferran, their strength and conditioning coach. And so, again, I told you I've been working on this for 10 years, but it's still a zero business. So it's not like I'm going to go, oh, well, I already have all. No, I have nothing. I've got a concept, basically. It is protected by some patents. So I do have a scientific study. So I do have some legwork already done, but it's still a zero, and I am going to take it to $1 billion. And in the next episode, I'll give you the lowdown on me potentially training LeBron. It didn't end up being LeBron, but I did get a Miami Heat professional player. All thanks to Coach Bill Ferran. For now, I think that's it, and I'll catch you guys next time.